afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to make a video today about our favorite place on Earth. Our favorite place to live, our favorite place to spend all our time in. Manastorm. You know it. Why do we like this place? Well, some people might say we're masochists, and others might say we're gambling addicts, and I think they're right on both accounts. The reason being is that the game design pushes the player to endlessly farm Manastorm in order to gain player power. If you want good scroll efficiency, scrolls by the way are the things that allow you to reroll abilities in order to get the ability that you wanted, not the ability that the game gave you. In order to have a really good scroll efficiency, you either need an insane raiding team to just pump through all the raids, but even that is finite. That grind is finite. Once you're done with the raids for the week or for the day until the next reset, that's it. So if you want to grind even more, you're left either with Mythic Plus or Manastorm, or I guess High Risk, though I have not heard that as being one of the best options because a lot of top players I see are still grinding Manastorm. And Mythic Plus as well is just less efficient than Manastorm. So we're left with this, the thing that you're seeing on screen, which is a beautiful aberration of what WoW used to be. I think there are big haters and big enjoyers of Manastorm. Personally, I think I'm somewhere in the middle. It's really fun at the start, it's extremely addicting, but once you farm like, I don't know, Slash played 3 days or 4 days of Manastorm, it gets a little bit repetitive. As you can see, I know exactly where to click to hit the boss, where to click to put my heroic leap, etc, etc. This is not a healthy way to memorize the map layout. But anyways, the point being is that if you want to get good scrolls and get a good build, whether that is healing build or tank build or just normal regular DPS build, you should always have a side spec, a side specialization. You can get the second tome of specialization for 400 gold, I think, in order to have a Manastorm build. And for Manastorm builds, I think there are two big players at the moment, Dark Intent and Astral Storm. If you guys have sick Manastorm suggestions, please let me know. I went personally for a pure shadow, melee pure shadow version with the Dark Intent. What I really enjoy, the reason I recommend this build is the fact that your Shadow Furies resets, so you can pump out new Shadow Crashes basically on every single boss, which is of great benefit to you, as it also AoEs any mobs that might have come to you and snuck up to you, and also it just nukes the boss insanely fast. Rolling this build is actually, I would say, not too difficult. It caps out very hard if you end up getting all the talents, but I have a really shitty version of it. I think at the moment I'm doing 10 to 12k single target with it, so it's really not that great, but its strength lies in the fact that you have double Shadow Crash, and you just walk up to the boss and double Shadow Crash it. For the abilities that I carded, let's take a look in the game and maybe talk a bit more about the spec. So I called it the Shadow Flame Monster, and I went straight up for Shadow Crashes, so pure Shadow and Shadow Crash. Obviously this was the most important part. Dark Intent, because I wanted to do big damage in melee. I did not want to play this ranged. That was the entire purpose of this class fantasy. If you play Dark Intent at the moment I was going double down is also really good. I think it procs Dark Intent twice. And then in order to enable keeping up your pure shadow stacks, I went Shadow Strikes. It's just a rare talent. You can hope to high roll it, but I really don't recommend it because it's integral to the build. This gives you a 50% chance to get Shadow Trance, which makes your next Shadow Bolt or Seed of Corruption instant cast. So it's good both in single target and in AoE, this talent. And lastly I went Nightfall's Promise, which since you're going to be casting a lot of Shadow Bolts to keep up your Shadow and from your Shadow Trances, it also procs Dark Intent twice. It is a very nice single target gain. If you want to go purely for Manastorm, I recommend this talent because you're basically going to double Shadow Crash into one Sinister Strike into one Shadow Bolt. At most, depends if you're boosting, you might do more. If you're not, I recommend you, if you want to use the spec for other things as well, you could go Master of Shadows. and then you actually have time in any other content besides Manastorm where you one-shot the boss in 2 seconds. You have time to build up combo points and use Rupture of Eviscerate, so that's kind of fun. For the ability cards, very simple. Double Shadow Fury is carded. We're playing Sinister Strike, so I went Fell Infused Weapon. It procs every time you Sinister Strike, both from your main hand and from your offhand. And I went Fan of Knives. Once again, it can proc the Shadow Trance, so you get the instant Shadow Bolt, Seed of Corruptions, and you also do really nice sustain AoE with Fell Infused Weapons and your weapons. The things that you're looking to roll. Well, basically because it's a Manastorm spec, obviously you want all the possible mobility in the game. Hand of Freedom is kind of a niche one. It really helps on the ice level, but it is not 100% necessary. Sprint is really one of the best. I would say it's an S tier mobility, especially since it gets reset every single level, and it lasts. If you use it at the end of one level, the buff will last into the next level. So you can basically sprint into the next level. This is very useful for situations where you have a very short level, and for example the spawn in Shadowfang Keep where you're right in front of the dog boss, where you just take 2 steps, you one-shot the boss. So in that level you did not need to use any mobility at all. You saved all your mobility, and then you press all your mobility and you have it going into the next level, so you start sprinting at 70%. Heroic Leap is nice, but I would much rather have Demonic Leap. That's for sure the way better version of this. It allows you to jump over crevices, I would say, like big gaps in between spaces. For example, when you get the cookie spawn in Dead Mines, you can just jump from the hill that you spawn at all the way onto the ship. You can't do that with Heroic Leap, but Demonic Leap allows you to do that. That's a huge time gain. And also the speed at which you move while you're flying with Demonic Leap is very good, like very fast. I think it's 70 or 100%, it feels like. So once again, whereas with Heroic Leap you move through the air at a lower speed, so it's not such a huge gain. Burning Rush, really recommend it. I high rolled it. It feels so nice. It's very good it's basically another speed pot. I also have the talent which makes it last 2 extra seconds. So it's a half duration, like a baseline speed pot, but it also has an effect. Doing something else. Look, the people want the boost. But it's really nice. The passive effect, while it is up, it prevents you from being slowed down below 100% movement speed. So on levels that you've already used your Millhouse Magical Escape, which removes things, you've already used your maybe Hand of Freedom, and you're still being slowed, you can pop Burning Rush and you continue to move forward like a tank. It is great. Blink, absolutely necessary. Highly recommend. Once again, I would say it's an S tier mobility. Any of the blinks would work. Personally, I like the actual regular blink, which removes stuns. It's really nice on some levels, like the one with a huge hill you have to walk up. I don't remember the name of the boss. That one, Justicar Keltris, I guess. I have no fucking clue. Anyways, this is it for the mobility. If I could roll, charge is baseline. You have to start with charge, 100%. Charge is one of the most useful Manastorm farming mobilities. This is also why I wanted to play meaty, so I can just have charge start with charge and just go in. It has, let's see the cooldown, 16-second cooldown. Basically, when you walk into a Manastorm level, you want to get charge on cooldown as fast as possible. This is like the principle for doing my layouts. In order for it to recharge, and maybe you get 3 uses, like 3 charges into the thing. Okay, let's see what other important stuff to mention. You want to roll most of the basic pure shadow stuff, so Shadow Burn, Seed of Corruption, Vampire Lord is really nice for self-sustain, Twilight Shock, all 3 corruptions. I only have 2 at the moment, Jadefire and the regular corruption. And then you basically want to add on top of that a bit of, I went strength main stat, a bit of attack power or melee things. Rampage, Aspect of the Beast is really good. And what else do I have? And Fell Infused Weapon, Fan of Knives, I have them over there. For talents, let's choose talents only. Obviously, Pure Shadow, Shadow Crash, Double Down, Dark Intent, those were carded. Elemental Destruction, I was trying to do something with Chaos Bolt. I don't think it's necessary. Passive damage in Manastorm, to cap out a build, I don't think passive damage is like super important, but in Manastorm, every little bit of passive damage, since you're only doing like 2 or 3 globals per boss, if in the first global you're proccing Seething Flames and another like 2 instances of passive damage, that's more burst that you have going into the boss. So every little tiny bit of damage that you don't have to cast, that just gets passively procced, I find very useful in Manastorm. Deathbringer, same reason, you do shadow damage, you would have shadow damage modifiers. This one I carded, very nice. Molten Fell Core, again I was trying to do something with Chaos Bolt. Then you want the Shadow Burn package that you would normally have in the pure Shadow spec as well. That is Shadowborn, to basically Corruption gives you more Shadow Burn damage. Dark Reclamation, again Corruption gives you more Shadow Burn damage. Dusk Till Dawn, casting stuff. The interaction here for melee is very interesting. So essentially the spell makes your Shadow Burn hit 6 targets, but the wording says casting a damaging spell with a cast time. Even though you have Shadow Trance, do I have it here? You don't even need it actually. Even though you have Shadow Trance and your Shadow Bolts are instant, you are still instantly casting a spell that has a cast time. Therefore, what was that shit called? Therefore, it stacks up your Dusk Till Dawn, which is a very, very nice interaction that you have, even though you're melee. So it's great that you can still have AoE Shadow Burns even though you're melee. What else do I have here? Twilight, not necessary. Mind Burn, Corruption damage. This one again for Immolate, not necessary. This again, this is super clutch. Growing Corruption, highly rated. You basically press Fan of Knives, you do a Seed of Corruption, you spread Corruption everywhere. You press Fan of Knives, you do a Seed of Corruption, you spread another round of Corruption. Also does a lot of damage. Highly, highly effective. What we do in the Shadows, very nice passive. Casting Shadow increases your physical damage, casting physical increases your shadow damage. Perfect interaction for our build. Besides that, I think this is kind of it. You just want general shadow modifiers, shadow mastery. I took a bunch of Sinister Strike talents for the simple purpose because Dark Intent scales with Sinister Strike damage. For my REs, I went full Sinister Strike and pure shadow damage and crit. Pretty straightforward. Your aim is to run into the boss room, double Shadow Crash, and if it's still alive you press Sinister Strike and you do Shadow Bolts until it's dead. Repeat. Make sure to keep up your 10 stacks of Pure Shadow by casting Shadow Burns on the move, so either Twilight Shock or Shadow Burn. The spec is quite simple. Alright, we're closing in onto our run. I hope you guys enjoyed the build breakdown and you found it useful. If you want a boost, feel free to whisper in game. I have better deals for subscribers, and I'm gonna be coming out with more videos soon if you guys enjoy them. Let me know. Peace.